Today's lesson on life is man abused, the underreported story, part 1. Researchers estimate that about 19 million men are sexually abused each year in the United States. That's 1 in 6 males. Today we're going to be breaking that generational theme of what goes on in the family stays in the family by sharing the story of one man, his story of abuse. Today we're actually going to hear his story, his pain, and his hope is that his testimony actually will help others tell their story, break free of shame, and also find healing in the process. And we know that there is power in the healing of our brokenness. Amen? This week, and each week we're actually going to share a portion of the video of Alan telling his story. And after that we're going to have a discussion with the interviewer, Miss Michelle Howard. Let's hear from Alan.
And at what age were you first molested?
Age 9, from a cousin in Brooklyn.
And you also stated that you had another family member that...
In Philadelphia.
Okay, and how old were you when that happened?
Age 9.
Age 9. And how long did the molestation take place?
It took place until I got 12.
Okay.
That's when I was introduced to the boys that lived in my building in Red Hook, Brooklyn.
Okay, and did you tell anybody? Did you go to your parents or to anyone to tell them what was happening to you?
I didn't go to anyone, which I should have, but I didn't.
Can you tell us why?
Because at the fact, when I was dealing with the young guys downstairs in my building, I liked what I was getting from them every day after school.
So that's why you didn't talk about the molestation from your family members?
Yes. I felt that I was already open. I knew what I was out there for.
When you say you knew what you were out there for, what do you mean when you say that?
I was dealing with the 2 brothers downstairs. One was 13, one was 14. I was 12. Every day after school, I would go to their house while their mother was at work, our parents is at work, and we did it every day, except for weekends.
But do you feel that because of the molestation, you were introduced into that lifestyle, or you felt like you were ready for that lifestyle as a result of the molestation?
I knew I was ready for the lifestyle. Okay. I knew that already. I mean, the molestation, that was like, I don't think I should have gotten that from family.
Of course not.
An outsider, yeah, but not from family.
But you were how old? 9?
9.
So,
I mean, 9 and a 14-year-old.
Okay, so let me ask you this. So during the time from 9 to 12 that you were being molested by family members, and these were, you said?
Cousins.
2 cousins.
2 cousins.
Okay, and one was in Brooklyn,
New York,
and one
was in Philadelphia.
So you would see them on a regular basis?
I would see them on a regular basis at family functions, and I also, sometimes the thought comes to my brain, like, do you remember what you've done to me?
I want to welcome to the show Miss Michelle Howard. Give her a hand.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here and for sharing this video with us. It was so powerful. I think we're going to get really good feedback. I think it's going to be empowering. It's going to be inspiring to help other people. Before I go on, because I know you pretty well, but I want other people to know who you are, and then we'll get into a little bit of what inspired you to do this video. So tell us a little bit about Michelle.
Okay, well, I'm originally from the Bronx in New York, and I came to Virginia after obtaining my BA in Business Management in 1999. And then in 2010, I decided to go back to school again to get my master's in professional clinical counseling.
Yes.
And I got that in 2013. And I'm an entrepreneur.
Yes.
I'm a published author.
Yes.
And I believe that we're here to serve. I believe that it's our responsibility to encourage, empower, inspire, and enlighten every day in every way.
Yes.
So that we can all live full, rich, healthy, productive,
Yes.
fulfilling lives.
Yes.
Now, I still live in Virginia Beach,
Okay.
and I am continuing to be an asset to the community by developing some workshops for people to assist people in achieving their goals and aspirations.
And you're going to hear more from Michelle in just a little bit about some of the things that she's doing in the community. But Michelle, I want to ask you, because this is such an inspirational video, what inspired you to want to do a documentary on male abuse?
I was talking to a friend of mine, and she was telling me that her brother was on his second marriage, could not maintain relationships, and she believed it was as a result of him being molested. And the fact that to this day, he hasn't talked about it, he hasn't sought counseling for it, so he's still carrying that around with him. And it's a lot to carry around.
It is a lot to carry
It's
on.
a
Any
lot
type
to
of
carry
abuse.
around. And so I said, let's do something about it. I want to open up the curtains,
Yes.
pull up the shades, let the light in, let some healing. Let's
Exactly.
start healing, and let's start putting those predators on notice.
Exactly.
You're not going to keep doing what you're doing and
Exactly.
getting away with it anymore.
Exactly.
It has to stop.
And one of the things that I mentioned in the intro is that, I'm big on my generational theme. So when Michelle came to me with this topic of wanting to expose male abuse, we talk about female abuse all the time. We talk about different types of abuse. We talk about verbal abuse. We talk about emotional abuse. But people really don't like to talk about sexual abuse. And when it comes to men being abused, even
Oh, yes,
less
even less.
talked about. But today is not only just for us to educate, but again, we want to empower. And
Yes.
not just myself and Michelle, but also Alan in his testimony wants to empower other men to come forward and be able to share their story, again, to break free of that shame and also to find that healing that they all need. So thank you so much for this great idea. We've been working on this for months, and so I'm so happy that
Me
we were
too.
able
I'm
to
very
get
happy.
together
Yes.
and make this happen. So you're going to enjoy this series, I promise. The next thing I want to talk to you about is just a little bit, it was so difficult. We started talking about this months ago, and you started off with a number of men that were coming forward.
Yes.
And as we started talking about
They
TV,
started falling off.
It started
Yes.
falling off. So how
And-
difficult was it?
Well, what happened was they found that they were not ready.
Okay.
One gentleman was ready, but his wife did not want him to come forward.
Okay.
She felt it was an embarrassment for her.
Okay.
He was ready to tell his story because, and it's not like he hadn't told it before, but in the telling, no one took him seriously.
Wow.
They said, "Oh, you lucky guy."
Yes.
Pat him on the back. "Oh, lucky you."
Oh, yeah. We're gonna talk about that.
Yes, lucky you. And as with Alan, he didn't tell anyone either.
Exactly.
Until recently. But he recognized that in order to heal, and I want to help someone else, I'm going to come forward, which was very courageous of him, to come forward and to tell his story.
So we have the difficulty of these men coming forward, and so we want to pause here and just encourage, again, those of you who are watching and those of you who have loved ones, should someone come to you, we're going to talk about, support near the end, but should someone come to you, we want to break the stereotype of how you're supposed to approach someone. Again, there's a huge one. We're going to talk about some of the myths and the facts. Men should basically be, if a woman hit on you, if she abused you, you should be happy. You should be, why are you upset? Why is that considered abuse? It's still abuse.
Yes,
if you remove the sexual piece, if you remove that it was a woman doing this to a man, it's still abuse. And especially if it's a child, it's still abuse.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to touch on that too. In listening to Alan, the interesting thing to me, one of the biggest things for this particular segment that they've just seen is that I felt like he was blaming himself, because he felt like he was like, well, it's almost as though he was saying, I liked it, or, I was aroused.
And that's something that I explained to him, of course, it's supposed to feel good. And that's the conflict, because I know that this is wrong and it's a dirty thing, but I do feel good. It does make me feel good, but you're supposed to feel good, you know.
When
so
you're
that
having a
doesn't,
healthy
yes,
sexual relationship.
What happens is they get that good feeling, and they think it makes them dirty and it makes them wrong and it makes them culpable.
Yeah. Well, one of the things too, though, I noticed in the research, and that I know too, is that it's not just for some people, they may like it, but for other people, there's also a physiological response that happens, especially with men, that there may be a rise.
Yes.
There
Right.
may be, you know, some
Right.
type of, you know,
So that
erection or
makes them
something. So that makes them think that I
yes.
must like it. But that has
Exactly.
nothing to do with
Right.
you liking it. That has more to do with your body responding to someone.
But how can you tell a
having
young
sexual relation
person?
with you?
A young person's not going to understand that, especially the younger they are, the harder it is for them to grasp that.
Yes.
So that's something that they carry with them.
A lot of young men carry into their adulthood because
Yes.
they feel like, well, I must have liked that this bodily reaction happened, so my body must have liked it. I must have been in control of that. And I want you to know that much of your body is your body and the physiological response, but you may not be in control of that response.
And then what happens is, you know, you start thinking that it's just a situation between the victim and the predator.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like throwing a pebble on the pond. You know, it ripples out to everyone. It affects everyone that person comes in contact with.
All relationships, definitely including future relationships and opposite sex relationships, and should they end up in a homosexual relationship, those relationships just as well, which
Yes.
we're going to talk about some more as well. I want to share some of the myths and facts, and so we can get more into what we're talking about, that I found that's related to boys and men who've experienced these unwanted or abusive sexual experiences. So here are a couple that I wanted to highlight. Here are some of the facts. That boys and men can be sexually abused or used, and it has nothing to do with how masculine they are.
That's right.
A lot of athletes have come forward.
Yes.
A lot of men who are good looking, healthy looking. It has nothing to do with, you know, those sort of things. Has nothing to do, it's not your fault, is what we want you to know. Number two, if a boy liked the attention he was getting or got sexually aroused during the abuse, as we talked about, even sometimes wanting the attention or the sexual contact, doesn't mean that he wanted or liked being manipulated and abused.
That's right.
And that any part of what happened in any way is his fault. Okay, that's important to understand. 3, sexual abuse harms boys and girls in ways that are similar and different. It's not always the same. We want to point that out because a lot of people think, well, it's different with girls. Abuse is abuse.
It's abuse.
It doesn't matter your gender, abuse is abuse. Number 4, boys can be sexually abused by both straight men and gay men. A lot of people think that typically it happens with just gay men. Like, you know, it has to be a man who wants to be with a man. No. And in a lot of cases, and we'll talk about too, and you can give me your feedback, it can be a straight male. It can be someone who's in a relationship,
That's
has
right.
a girlfriend or
That's
wife,
right. That's
a family. So don't think that it can't happen, or someone who's that's a straight person can't abuse that child.
That's exactly right. Both of his predators went on to marry and have children and grandchildren. So that's exactly right.
Yeah. Last one I want to talk about before we go on is that the myth that boys who are sexually abused cannot go on to be real men.
Oh, and that's something that that's when I first started this project, most of my participants were heterosexuals.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to do both a heterosexual and a homosexual.
Yeah.
And I think that the myth is that if you are molested by a man, it's going to make you a homosexual, and that's not true. That's definitely a myth.
Yes.
So
And we're going to talk more about that too.
yes.
Next episode. Okay,
Yes.
so stay tuned. Okay. So one of the things that I'm seeing just is that we're doing a great job, I think, of educating people about, because because as I titled this episode, The Underreported Story. I know we have a couple of resources we're going to talk about later, like RAIN and 1 in 6, but it's underreported. And so I'm so happy that you were able to bring it out and that we can do this together to help educate and empower people to talk about the abuse that they're going through or someone that they know.
Yes, and the goal is that once someone sees this, they'll want to speak up and they'll want to say something. And we're putting the predator on notice that you're not just going to keep doing this and getting away with it anymore. It's just not going to happen.
Amen. Great job. Give her a hand. Thank you so much for sharing that awesome information. I think that we're getting the word out. I think that people will really be empowered by this information. I know that you're doing a number of things in the community, and so I want to take just a few minutes just to talk a little bit about your program that you have going on and an upcoming date as well.
Okay, the program is going to be a life skills workshop, and it's to facilitate and implement healthy and positive life changes in individuals seeking to transition into motivated and productive assets to their families and the community. This is going to be a 12-week workshop. It's going to be held at the Mount Olive Baptist Church. That's 310 North Bird Neck Road in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and that's 23451. The first workshop will begin on November 4th, and you can contact me, Michelle Howard, if you're interested. It's going to be a great workshop. I would advise and encourage everyone to just take part in it. It will change your life. And the telephone number is 757-425-1599. That's 757-425-1599.
Okay, awesome job. I want to say in each of these episodes that Alan, you did a great job. So thank you so much for sharing your story. Michelle, you did an awesome job as well. Thank you so much for allowing me to collaborate with you on this project. Please take advantage of her community work and her life skills workshop. We'll post the information on our YouTube channel as well. If you have any questions, please contact her. Thank you so much for watching It's Life Changing. We'll be right back. Now time for our community resources. I'm so excited to have with me Dr. Earl Williams. Welcome to the show, Dr. Earl Williams.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here.
Okay.
Mr. Clinical Psychologist with a forensic specialty. Not that many of you around here.
I am probably in the 7-city area of Tidewater, the only black forensic clinical psychologist.
Wow. 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 And the coolest psychologist you'll ever meet. Ever meet. Okay, I just want to put that out there.
You say the nicest things.
They're all true. And so I want them to know a little bit about your background because you have such a beautiful background of things that you've done and things that you've accomplished. I want people to sort of hear a little bit about how you became Dr. Earl Williams.
Okay, all right. Well, it was kind of a circuitous journey. I've been to school for a variety of things.
Yes.
I went to school after I went to school to be a tractor trailer driver while I was a plumber. I went to school for the College of Pharmacy.
Okay.
You know, and so I was there for a couple of years. I've been to school as a physics major, as a financial major, and before I was arrested and put in the penitentiary, I was working as a stockbroker trainee.
Okay. Interesting.
It's just it's a life experience.
It is, and you've had a lot of them, okay?
I have.
But ultimately led you to psychology.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And,
yes. After the College of Pharmacy, I got interested in social work and sociology, and that's how I found psychology. And actually, you know, I got into psychology because I wanted to figure out why I do the things I do.
Yes, not other people.
No, I was not. I did not get into psychology to figure out what you do.
Yes. What's wrong with me?
I want to know, you know, why do I do the things I do? You know, and so I eventually graduated from the University of Massachusetts.
Yes, I was going to say, if you hear a little accent, it's a little Boston in there. So, you know, originally I think you're from Newport News, but then you went off to Boston and started your life there.
Well, actually, I was born in Newport News.
Okay.
Right at the end of the war.
Okay.
In 45.
Okay.
You know, my father was stationed in Fort Eustis.
Okay.
You know, and so when I was 2 and he got out of the service, we relocated to Massachusetts.
Okay.
First, we were in Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Okay.
You know, which is right next to, across the river from Boston.
Okay.
Cambridge is where Harvard and MIT are located. And then after, I think I was in the 3rd or 4th grade, and we moved to Boston and the Roxbury section of Boston. And that's where I grew up. So all of my formative years and education really happened in Boston.
Yes. And I love to hear Dr. Earl talk because, you know, when he says my name, he says Khalida. It's so cute. And so I wanted, you know, them to hear a little bit about you because you have such a rich background, as I was saying. You've also, in psychology, you work with Eastern Shore State Hospital. You've worked.
Well, that was the first job I had.
Okay.
Okay. So when I got my degree, I was 40 years old.
Okay.
You know, and
that's amazing. That's good.
and my wife and I decided to, well, we got tired of the cold weather in Boston. 20 degrees below zero.
Oh,
you can really get over it after a while.
Yes.
You know, put in your to get into your car, you have to heat up your key, your car key, put it in the lock really quick and turn it because locks freeze.
Oh, wow.
In the winter.
On from there, he moves on to University of Virginia. You know, you've done lots of forensic evaluations.
Right. Well, while I was at Eastern State Hospital, and I came there at the lowest level, and when I left, I was the acting director.
Okay.
But while I was there, I took classes at UVA at the Institute of Law, Psychiatry, and Public Policy to do forensic evaluations.
Yes.
You know, and so that's how I got formally into forensics. But when I was in Massachusetts, I was doing internships in the prison that I was incarcerated in. So,
oh, wow.
You know,
that's amazing work, though. Because the one person wonderful. Sometimes they'll listen to is someone who's been in their shoes.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, yeah.
You know. So anyway, I left. I was at Eastern State for 3 years.
Okay.
And actually, my experience at Eastern State is what motivated me to write my first book. Yes. Psychology from Scripture.
Okay.
You know. And so then I left and I opened up a private practice in Hampton, downtown Hampton. And I did that for a while until, and matter of fact, I had an office in Hampton, Portsmouth, and Norfolk. So I was really doing
really well.
Kind of okay. Yes. You know, until managed care came in, you know, and that just sort of knocked me out the box, you know. And so then I ended up working at other people's private practices. And so I worked at the Barry Robinson Center for about 3 or 4 years. And that's what motivated me to write my second book, Oh, So You Think You're Grown, 100 Facts of Life.
I saw that.
And that worked out pretty well, you know, and I was there for about 3 years, and all the time I was doing forensic evaluations on the side. And so, you know, my forensic practice grew. Yes. You know, and as it grew, I did less of doing psychotherapy. Yeah. And then I was recruited to teach. Yes. You know, over there where you were, you know, at Hampton University. And so I taught at Hampton University for 7 years. Okay. And I introduced a lot of new subjects that they had never had.
Yeah, you did.
They never had forensic psychology. Yes. They never had positive psychology. They never had sports psychology. So I introduced all of those subjects.
And they're still popular courses.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, so that was nice, and then amazing. And while I was there, I was recruited again to South University, which is also where you were.
Been there too.
Yeah, our paths have crossed quite a bit
a couple of times.
when you think about it, you know. And so I was teaching, and the guy that hired me and recruited me at South. Is the guy that was my intern. Yes. You know,
from Regent. Well, he was at Regent.
While he was at Regent, working at Christian psychotherapy services. You know, and so you know the script is flipped. Now he was working for me. Now I'm working for him.
You never know when we're going to see each other. That's why it's good to keep friends in Hampton Roads. You know, you never know. So you've again done some really great things.
When you get to where you're going, don't forget where you've been.
Exactly. Exactly. It's true for all of us. And you've done so many things. You've been on several TV shows, obviously. I'm so grateful for you being here with me.
I was the for Channel 10, for Wavy 10, when I had my private practice in Hampton, I was a profiler.
Yes.
You know,
I saw
and
that.
so
That's awesome.
anytime someone would commit a crime in the 7-city area, they would send a reporter to my office, and I would explain the personality type to do a particular crime, whether it's a sex crime or a murder or a robbery or anything like that, and I would give a profile of the personality style of the individual that would do that sort of
That's
crime.
amazing. And a lot of our kids who are watching are really interested in that sort of profiling. You know, they watch these shows, you know, the NCIS and, you know, Criminal Minds, and meet, you know, the real live, clinical psychologist, you know, who does this real work. And so, Dr. Earl, you're an amazing man. You know, you've written several books, and I also want to highlight that he has 7 free manuals on your website, and I want to read the names of them. So he has for treatment for ADHD, treatment for oppositional defiant disorder, understanding Asperger's syndrome, aggression, understanding treatment and behavior plan, the treatment of adolescent sex offenders, normalcy versus delinquency, and the last one, bullying and aggression treatment for children and adolescents. All free resources from a clinical psychologist. I think that's awesome work.
Well, thank you.
And you're not slowing down. You're supposed, last time I saw you, you were supposed to be slowing down, but you also did a documentary as well.
Right. Well, for the third book is Roxbury Redemption, where I actually talk about some of the trials and tribulations that I've been through. And I don't really think that my trials and tribulations are any more difficult than anyone else's, you know, so it's not like a woe is me.
Yes.
I mean, yes, they told my mother I was mentally retarded when I was in kindergarten.
Wow.
You know, I started high school when I was 12, and I was the only black, you know. My high school home teacher said in college accepts me as hard up. My father said I was too stupid to finish school, I should drop out.
Wow.
You know, so I didn't get a lot of encouragement, but a lot of people didn't get a lot of encouragement.
A lot.
And so, you know, and then when my mother was killed, you know, by a hit and run driver, and I went off the deep end, and I started participating in criminal activity, you know, which is what got me into the penitentiary, you know, and came out, and 15 years later I got my doctorate degree, you know. And so I write it to give people hope, you know, for the future, you know, because, you know, there are numerous things that we can do, you know, especially, you know, when you keep it spiritual and physical and intellectually, you know, that you can do anything. Yes. You know, anything.
Yeah, amazing. You know, your testimony and a story of hope, because that's what we want the young men who are watching these series, and the young women too, but our men who are watching this series on Man Abused, to know that you can do anything. Whatever you've been through, you can come out of it. There is hope for you. I want to thank Dr. Earl Williams for being here again. Give him a hand.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Do you have a website that you would like to share, or contact information?
Sure. My website is www.drearle, that's Dr. Earl.com. You know,
that's easy. I like that. Okay. I want you to start living your best life starting today. Thank you so much for watching. It's life changing, and I'll be posting all of our resources on our website. Thank you, and God bless you.